are in Ein Yaakov, and please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. Hit the bells, whatever you're supposed to do, to get notifications. And we're looking for 1,000 subscribers. 1,000. Give me 1,000 people who just subscribe. I don't care if you listen or not. Just subscribe, get the notification, and I can make money too. Okay. Let's be honest about this. Total honesty. Okay. Here we go. It says, again, we're on 49A1. So since the Mishnah, okay, we're talking about dove's feathers. Oh, what happened in the Mishnah, it was talking about, I'll just read the Mishnah very quickly. You do not have this. Well, you guys have it. Tomanim B'ksud of Peru, if one may insulate with clothing, with the produce, Bekanfe Yona, this is what the whole Gemara is about, with the wings of a dove's feathers, with a Nesoret shell Charashim, or with carpenter's sawdust, shell Pishtan Daka, or with fine flax clothing, combings. Rav Yehuda Osir Bedaka of Mata Begasa. Rav Yehuda previously insulating with fine ones, but permits insulating with coarse ones. We're really looking at the words Kanfe Yona, the wings of a dove. That's what really we're going to be concentrating on in this particular thing. It's also going to explain why certain people roll their tefillin up in a certain way.
Really?
Where you get the wings on the tefillin. This is all from this Gemara. Yes?
I was just going to ask, what are we insulating tefillin?
We're insulating, insulate with clothing, you're for cooking, to keep it warm, to keep on Shabbos. You want to keep the product warm, so you have to insulate it with something in order because it's not on the fire. It is put in the ground. Whatever you're doing with it, that's why they're saying you can do with this. And the reason for these things is it does not add heat. So on Shabbat, if I'm putting something around that's going to add heat to it, that is forbidden because that is cooking. But if or like cooking, so if I can continue the cooking. But if I just surround something that just won't let it cool off, not add heat to it, just won't cool off as quickly, so that would be permissible.
What would have been requiring heat in the building of that tabernacle? Because those 39 things were specifically not...
Cooking. You're talking about cooking.
Yeah.
So
in construction of a building.
No, not just anything has to do with the Mishkan. In other words, anything, the korban, the sacrifices, the fire on the altar, the burning of the fats, all those things, fire. So that's what it was looking at. So it's not just the building; it has to do with the operation also of the Mishkan. So it says Amar Rav Yanai. So Rav Yanai said tefillin tzarichin guf naki ke'elisha bal kanafayim. Tefillin require one who wears them to maintain a clean body, such as what was maintained by Elisha, the winged one. And we're going to find out why he's called the winged one. So Mahi, what's meant by a clean body? Abaya Amar Shalo Yafich Behem. Abaya says it means that one should not pass wind while dressed in them. Okay, if you know you have, he says in number 7, he must feel confident that should he feel the urge to pass wind, he will be able to maintain himself until he first removes his tefillin. It would be a very bad thing for you to wear tefillin, even though you should be wearing them the entire day. Okay, according to the Torah. We should be wearing them the entire day, but because people became weak in their constitution and became flatulent and could not control themselves, or didn't feel they could control, or lost control, whatever the case is going to be. So the rabbis said we should take off our tefillin as soon as possible after our morning prayers. We also and we don't put it on for our afternoon prayers. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, and that is also why some people will take them off after Uval Tzion, because they want to take it off as soon as possible, not just to get to work because they're in a rush to get to work, but rather they're using this logic to say the minimum amount of time that I should have it on is better than leaving it on and then possibly passing gas. Yeah.
So is leaving tefillin on all day, is that really only for somebody who is really studying all day? The guy that goes out to work in the field or whatever work he's doing, it would seem like he would get dirty and so forth, and be hard to work if you're doing physical activity. So I mean, what was intended in terms of leaving them on all day? That's it.
It was for everybody. It wasn't.
Really?
It wasn't meant
Even
for only
working
the
in the
scholars.
field.
You cover you can put a glove on. What's the big deal? It's like tzitzis. It's like anything. We decided that we can't do work with them, but it's that's why if you saw the old days of the old tefillin, they were small.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Today the way we have it because that we want to spend a lot of money, so it's $1,000 or $2,000 a pair. So it's big, gigantic things, and they can't even fit in your head right. But and on the arm, you need armor just to put it on. I mean, the little kids are putting it on. It's nearly impossible to put it on right. But that's just what we do today because we're only using it for prayer. But in the old days, you would have the people who would wear.
It's easier to make the bigger ones, isn't it? Because
of course it is, 100%. Right. The small ones took a lot of talent, and because they had to write very small, and you had to follow the rules and everything else. So, but again, it was what people used to do, and so they used to wear it. So it's obviously, you have to be careful where you're wearing it. Yeah. You can't walk in certain alleys. You're restricted from certain places. You can't be around feces with it. So if you're going to be cleaning up the pen, you would have to take them off. But if you were going to be, again, if you're farming, I'm not sure what the problem would be unless you're running into something you should be running into. But I'm not a farmer, so dirt is dirt. Dirt is nothing wrong with dirt. There's no problem with dirt. So it's a matter of, like I said, if you're worrying about it getting dirty, all you do is you put your a glove on, and most farmers will wear gloves.
The shell roast, you're not supposed to cover with anything, though, yeah?
Right.
The shell yad you can cover.
Right, but even with the shell roast, you could put you could put your hat on. I mean, people wear hats with this stuff all the time anyway.
Over it, do you?
What? No, but they will put a hat on like the cowboys.
Behind it, right?
Yeah, like a cowboy.
Is the prayer inside the mezuzah the same as the prayer inside
the scroll in the mezuzah has the first two paragraphs of Shema, and the tefillin has the first two paragraphs of Shema, Kaddish Kol Bechor, which is another section, and then what's the fourth section? Where's the sitter here?
Yeah.
I just had one, right? Thank you. The fourth one comes from So one comes from Exodus, that's like Kaddish Kol Bechor, when you sanctify and feed the firstborn, and then the other one comes from Exodus 13, when it says, it shall come to pass when Hashem will bring you to the land of Canaanites, as he swore, you shall set apart every first issue of the womb to Hashem, every first issue that is dropped by the cattle, and so on and so forth. And all the reason you're doing that is because God took you out of Egypt and he killed their firstborns. So those are the four paragraphs that are in the tefillin, as opposed to the mezuzah that only has the first two paragraphs of Shema. Okay, so now let's go on. So Rav Amar Shelo Yisham Behem, and Rava said it means one should not sleep with them. Again, he explains he must be able to restrain himself from falling asleep. While wearing tefillin, lest he pass gas. Again, while asleep, he will pass gas or experience a seminal emission. Rava maintains that in saying that tefillin require a clean body, Rabbi Yanai could not have been referring to the ability to contain oneself from passing wind, because anyone is capable of this. Okay, so he's saying anybody knows when to pass wind, so take off tefillin. Rather, Rabbi Yanai meant that one must be able to withhold himself from falling asleep while wearing tefillin, which is a more difficult feat, as explained by the Ritva. It should be remembered that in former times tefillin were wore all day long. This is why the ability to contain oneself from passing wind or falling asleep while wearing tefillin was considered qualifications. Is precisely because of our inability nowadays to control ourselves in these areas for long periods of time that the practice became to wear tefillin only during the relatively short period of morning prayers. I have to say something about this. So it's very important to say that sometimes you pull an all-nighter, or you're sleeping, or you want to sleep. Okay, and now we have a specific time that I have to say Shachris by. Right? I have to daven Shachris, I have to daven the morning prayers by a certain time. Today, 10:30. I think it was the last time I was supposed to say Shemona Esrei. 9:30 for the Shema. Okay, around there. Or 10:30 for whatever. It's 10:30 for the Shema, 11:30 for Shemona Esrei.
Night or morning?
Morning. Okay, that's only because we're such in a late time zone here. But the normal time zone would be 9 or 10, whatever the case is going to be. So what happens? People were driving. We went to the wedding. Okay, we're driving on the road. You're on the road. We were on the road from 3 in the morning on Tuesday, or whatever the day of the wedding was, and we got home the next day 10 in the morning. It's a lot of time on the road. Okay, so on the way to the wedding, okay, we all had our 2 hours of sleep, whatever. We stopped in the shul and we davened in the shul. Okay, good. Going back, on the other hand, we didn't want to stop at the shul because we needed to get back to work. Okay, so what happens? People are on the road and they decided some of them, I didn't do it, some of them decided they're going to daven with sunrise. Okay, so they're in the dark car with your tefillin on. You put your towels over your head, nice and warm. In the car.
And they're driving.
Well, no,
they're driving east towards sunrise, right?
we were driving west. We're going from New Jersey to here.
Oh, New Jersey.
New Jersey to here.
Wow.
Okay, this is going the wrong way. Wrong way. Okay, wrong way. Wrong way, Jose.
So
Okay.
how did you judge?
Well, it's not hard. We go on to
All right.
the internet and it tells you where you are, what the sunrise is. No big deal. That's not hard today. But they figured out what it would be. So again, they like to wear the towels over their head. Now, I'm in a car.
That's safe when you're driving.
No, the driver didn't do it.
Oh, good.
The people, the passengers. So, but I just want to bring out something. How do you normally quiet a child who's crying?
Put the towels over his head.
Put him in a car, put the blanket over him, and it's dark. The odds are he's going to go to sleep. He or she will go to sleep.
Works for birds.
It works for everybody. Put him in a car. It's nice. Unless you don't. That it's nice. It's a clear. Okay. So now what happens is they're putting their tefillin on. And I was watching this. Then they put the towels over their head. It was the longest tefillah they ever had in their lives. Why? Because they fell asleep. They fell asleep. The very thing you're not supposed to do was what happened. Because they wanted to fulfill the mitzvah, but they're tired, and the car's going. Put everything over your head. You're warm. The car was warm. It wasn't because the rest of us were cold. So
Isn't there a small print someplace that says, it's like dosage of pills. If you miss one, wait till the next one and take it.
No, it would have been logical just to pull over, daven, and get it done. But nobody wants to
You do that like
stop
with
time.
a cell phone. You pull over when you're done. You get back.
Right, they didn't want to do that because they didn't want to kill. It was already enough time on the road, and people had to get back to work. Again, you're doing with that. But it was funny that these people who were doing it, not everybody fell asleep, but there were those who fell asleep. And I didn't do it because I don't like to read jumping up and down from my cell phone and so on and so forth. So I figured I'm a big Rav. I can daven at home when I get there. I said Shema, and I got home. But it's. But I'm saying that's exactly what happens. You have to guard yourself from falling asleep.
All right,
So if I'm going to fall, if I know that I'm putting myself in that situation, it may be better to daven, to say Shema, put the film on, say Shema, take it off, and then daven Shemona Esrei later. It may be better to do that. Maybe better just to daven the whole thing without the film, and then when it comes light, put the film on. You have to figure out what you're going to do. That's a judgment on you. Am I going to fall asleep or not? Yeah. Well, your question is.
Did that even count?
Yeah.
They didn't
It
know
did
what
count.
They were doing.
It did count because
Why?
they were awake when they davened.
They weren't when they woke up or whatever.
No, I'm saying when they woke up, they would finish davening. It was a long tefillah. That's all. They fell
It's
asleep.
almost like we've talked about if you light an electric menorah, you're not really lighting anything, so don't say a prayer over it.
Correct, but this one they certainly did what they were supposed to do. Just took a little longer because they fell asleep in the middle. And one of them actually waited because he fell asleep, so he waited, and the car stopped. He jumped out of the car and he davened Shemona Esrei. So here you are in the middle of the highway.
Doesn't everybody? Yeah.
Yes. Well, tell us to fill on. So it's quite interesting in the middle of. I don't know where we were,
Were
but
you in Ohio? You can get thrown out of Ohio for doing that.
Oh.
I don't know.
Pennsylvania.
Hey, pulling over to the side, you mean?
No, they pulled into the.
I'm kidding.
You pulled into. It was pulled into the rest area. Yep. But it's always interesting when you see Jews davening full regalia outside.
How many of there? It sounds like a caravan. How many of
We
there?
had 7 people in the van.
Oh, wow.
Big van.
It was nice. It was a nice thing. Well, we had a daven mincha. That was also interesting. With that we all stood up. I went to a corner. Everybody decided to go to the same corner.
In the van?
No. This was in the rest stop.
Oh, in the rest.
And everybody's wondering why people shuckling back and
Mincha
forth.
was easy. You just hold your phone.
No, nobody was holding the phone. We were all. I just went to the corner. Okay, so now what happens if you have that's what the halacha. Okay, you have to figure out when you're not going to fall asleep, because what's the problem with falling asleep? One, it's not it's not honorable to wear the film when you're asleep anyway. But the biggest problem is you may pass gas. So that's really what the clean part is. Now, by the way, this becomes, so if I have stomach problems that day, I have to judge myself, am I capable of putting film on? Okay, so if I think that I cannot, then I should not put film on that day, even if I'm going to miss the entire day. So if somebody has diarrhea, if somebody takes the medicine for colonoscopy, if all these sort of things, that's when you just don't do it until you know you're through. You also, by the way, don't say Asher Yatzar until you know you're through. Like with the colonoscopy, you're going every whatever, how often that's going to be. Same thing with diarrhea. Until you're totally through with it, until you feel like I'm through, that's when you make the bracha. Otherwise, you can't. You're in the middle of it, so you don't want to do that. What?
Speaking of Jews davening on the rest
Jews davening at the rest stops, yeah.
that's interesting seeing all the Jews like in the full regalia davening. It gets really interesting when more Jews show up. It's sort of like a weird sort of.
So just so you should know that happens when.
We were there, and like some other Jews like, hey, if there's more Jews, it could be a minyan. That's like
Correct.
6 Jews express that davening.
Correct. So what happened was when I was with the yeshiva, and many the previous century, many years ago. So we were going to Florida. I remember that we were in 3 vans. We were going from New York to Florida. We were doing a program. Good. So we were all going in the van. That was only a bacha can do those trips. I'm sorry. A guy like me these days cannot do that. I'm too old for that. But you were on the road for, I think, 3 days. You're getting from
3 days.
New York to Florida. How long?
It's 3 days from New York to Los Angeles.
No, it's not. It's 5.
Are you talking about back and
It's
forth
12
or
hours. It's 15 hours. I mean, if you drive continuously through or switch drivers, it's not that far. It's this far. It's not this far.
It felt like 3 days to me.
You go through North and South Carolina?
I think they did. I wasn't driving.
Yeah.
I didn't drive. I was just going with them. Anyway, so what happened was we pulled into a rest stop, and this guy sees us. We're just at the rest stop, and the guy sees all the old joke of how many Jews can you fit in the vans. So we're all getting out, and he needs to say Kaddish. Guys need to say Kaddish. And he said, who's the Rosh Yeshiva? And he was a from guy, so who's Rosh Yeshiva? So we pointed right there. And he said to the guy, look, I'm on the road. I'm not going to make minyan. I don't know if you can do it, but can we dive in here?
Was it mincha?
It was mincha. Can we dive in here? I'll catch my Kaddish, And we were supposed to daven somewhere else. We weren't going to daven there. And the rabbi said, no problem. Everybody, out.
Were there 10 of you?
10. There were 10 in the vans. We had more than 10. So he said, so we all got out, and suddenly in the middle of, I don't know where it was, everybody, boom, that's it. Everybody at Sidorim made sure the guy got it, and then we had some other people join us because it's a minyan.
Really?
Come on,
That's funny.
everybody, somebody was there. So we had a minyan of maybe, I think, 30 people. I mean, imagine you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't think, and you see all the people davening. They go in. So it happens. Yeah, definitely happens. You have to be in the right place at the right time. But when it happens, it's something there.
For the non-Jews who go to rest stop, it's like a Coca-Cola or something. They go to the thing, they turn on the vending machines, like the whole mass of people start swarming in. What?
Well, we davened outside because it was easier. It was during the summer. But it was funny because that's what it is. You have a minyan, ready-made minyan. We're traveling through, so he got his commission. It was very good. Okay, so now amai krele baal kanafayim. Okay, let's try to do this quick. Okay, why was he called Elisha the winged one? So Shapam Achat. Gazra Malchut Romi Harasha'a Gezerah Al Yisrael. So because it once happened that the wicked Roman government passed an edict against Israel, Shekol Hamaniach Tefillin Yenakru et Mocho, stating anyone who dons tefillin would have his brain, which lies beneath the spot of the head tefillin, gouged out. That was a decree. Okay, the Romans didn't want us to wear tefillin. So he says nothing in the story, nothing in the Gemara is about, nothing in the story the Gemara is about to relate indicates that Elisha maintained a clean body while wearing tefillin. However, since a miracle was performed for Elisha on account of his tefillin, it is to be assumed that he was scrupulous in keeping all the laws regarding tefillin, one of the which requirement is to maintain a clean body. Fine. But I'm reading it really for the storyline here. So again, if the rule was if they caught anybody wearing tefillin, they would gouge out his brain. So now this Elisha would don them and go into the marketplace in defiance of the edict. That's how we're understanding that. Because what happens? I'm going to go over time, so I hope that we don't have to run here. What happens is, in an edict like that where it's life-threatening, I'm not obligated to put tefillin on or to do something, a positive commandment. I can never do a negative. Okay? You can never, you shall not murder. Well, okay, you can't murder. It's pretty clear. But when it comes to eating, if somebody tells me to eat a ham sandwich or I'll kill you sort of thing, well, we actually believe them. It's not just an idle threat. So then I would be able to eat the ham sandwich. Okay? If it's good, let's assume it's only one-on-one and there's not 30 people around me and there's no Chil Hashem, all those things. Okay? Let's assume that that's what it is. So here where the case was, if we catch anybody with tefillin, so put tefillin on in your house, put it on, take it off. Okay? You get your mitzvah. No, he did it in defiance. Fine. Ra'o Kazdor Echad. So an Roman officer saw him. And what happened? Ratz mipanav, he ran, Ratz acharav. So Elisha fled from him and the officer pursued him. Kevan shigei slow. As the officer caught up to him, Natalam Erosha, he took them off from his head. V'achzan biyadon. So Elisha took off the tefillin and he held them in his hand. Amar lo mazav yadecha. So the Roman officer said, "What's in your hand?" Amar lo kanfeyona. Elisha answered, "Dove's wings." Okay, dove's wings. Hey, what's in my hands? Dove's wings. That's what's in my hands. Amar lo. So he says, "Pashat et yado." And what he did is he opened his hand for Nimsu Kanfeyona. And lo and behold, dove wings were there. Not tefillin. Okay, he's a good magician.
Did he get his tefillin back?
Did he get his tefillin back? I like that one. Okay. The ficha, if he could get him away, if God can turn him into doves,
Right,
so he can turn it back. It doesn't say that far. Okay. Lefichach Karnato, and because of that, they called him Elisha Baal Kanafayim. Because of this miracle, they called him Elisha, the winged one. Okay, and like I said, this is also why some people wrap up their tefillin, and in that form that you have two. It looks like wings, all from this story.
They go 7 times
Now
around.
that what I'm saying, they tie it up to put in their bags.
Oh, you mean after they're done?
Right, when they're done. So
You
they'll
mean
tie it up.
in wrapping on half on this side and half on
Right,
this side.
right,
I've seen that.
right. So that's reminiscent of this story.
Some
Right,
people
but it
do
doesn't
all.
change the
No.
configuration.
Some people do all on one side. Yeah.
I know that they call it the wing, the dove, the kanfei Yonah. That's what they call it. So there's all, but it's from this story. I don't know how they do it. One
Nobody
side to
just
side.
folds them up and stuffs them in the bag. He always wraps it around.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
For the roche, for the head one.
For both, they would do both.
Oh.
It's just called the reason we have to know about it is because you gouge out the brain.
Right.
So, but I'm saying when they wrap it up like that, they call it kanfei Yonah. It's all from this story. So there's a source for why people wrap tefillin the way they do. Okay, so then he says, "Umayshna kanfei Yonah mishar ofo." So why wings of the dove rather than wings of some other bird? Why did he pick on that? Okay, and mishum the imtil Knesset Yisrael Yonah, because the Bnei Israel, the congregation of Israel, is compared to a dove. Shneimar says, Kanfei Yonah nechpa bekesef, as it says in Psalms, the wings of a dove covered with silver. Ma Yonah kanafeh meginot ale af Yisrael mitzvot meginot ale. Just as with a dove, its wings protected, so too with Israel. The commandments that it performs protect it. And he says, from when it comes to the bird, the wings protect it from the cold. Also, unlike other birds, a dove uses its wings rather than its beak to fend off attackers. And okay, fine. So that is how. And since the commandments are compared to the wings of doves, it's appropriate for Elisha's tefillin to miraculously metamorphize into dove's wings. So he says, based on the story, that's what I'm saying. Some people have they want how they wrap up the tefillin, and then they also discuss why Elisha was not obligated to defy the officer even in pain of death, where it is taught that one must forfeit his life rather than violate even a minor mitzvah in the face of oppressive governmental decrees designed to stamp out Torah observance, and others discuss why he was allowed to put his life into risk initially. So there's a whole bunch of questions with that, but like I said, I can't get into every story here, but those are the questions that will come up. But that will come out. Why did he do it? Why should he have done it? Shouldn't he have done it? And so on and so forth. But that's where the story was of Kanfei Yonah, and why this person was called Elisha, the winged one. All because this miracle happened to him. And from there, like you said, even though it doesn't say anything about his clean body, we derive from that if such a miracle happened, it must have proved that he had a clean body. Okay, we'll stop there.